Alright, welcome to our quick review of the Southeast Asian city model. The slides were designed to accompany the textbook People, Places, and Culture. I am, of course, Miss Dahl, and I'll be the lecturer for today. So, when I say quick review, by the way, I really mean quick review. This is our only slide. When we talk about the model of large Southeast Asian cities, a few things to understand. One is that we're looking generic. Okay, so you have to bear in mind there's going to be specific differences with specific cities, but it's a nice generality. It's a nice generalized model. Okay. And also that what we're looking at is kind of the medium-sized Southeast Asian city. So, things to remember, right? We've got our port zone, which functions as a combination of central business district and entree into the city, right? And then we've got our western commercial zone. Really what that means, and these are mixed land use zones, by the way, or sorry, they're not. But anyways, really what that means is that it's where European or American countries tend to do their businesses, right? That's kind of where they tend to cluster. And then we've got alien commercial zones, alien in this case not people from Mars, but rather people not originally from the country. So for instance, under the British Empire, many Indians moved out of India and into a variety of other countries, depending on exactly which Southeast Asian city we're looking at. There's significant Chinese settlements and things like that. So just things to bear in mind. Right? We've also got, as we get out towards the edges, we've got some suburbs and some squatter areas. Okay, squatter, I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but basically what it is when somebody who does not own a parcel of land goes in and builds a house on it and starts living on it. Okay, so and then they treat the property as if it were their own. So in essence, they own it by squatting upon it, literally. Right? Within this model, you'll notice we've got various zones, right? This is another one where it's a combination of the sector model and the concentric zone model. We've got various zones, right? So our first kind of tannish, yellowish, peachish zone is split between two things. One is a mixed land use. Okay, mixed land use is really a fancy way of saying there are businesses there are houses there are factories there. Really that there's just a mixture of what's there, so you can't really classify it. On the edge of that, we've got the government zone, so that's where we would find government offices and things like that. Right. Our second ring, what we've got is they call it a middle density residential zone. That just means that houses are a little bit bigger, that people are a little bit wealthier, right? They're a little bit longer established. And then on the very edge of that, right, next to the government zone there, you've got the high-class residential, and then also right next to that high-class residential zone, you've got kind of a little further out is a newer high-class residential zone. So in essence, what's happening is that as people are getting wealthier and they're trying to move into that high-class neighborhood or neighborhoods, they're being forced to expand, and because you can either expand out into the middle density zone or out towards new suburbs and squatter areas, they're spreading out towards new suburbs and squatter areas because that's territory that's less likely to be occupied, and so it's cheaper and easier to purchase, as easy as things can be in some of these countries without really strong governments, right? Next to that new high-class zone, that's, again, suburbs, squatter areas, things like that. And then on the very outside edge, you've got what's called a market gardening zone. Okay, market gardening is, for lack of a better term, if you're at all familiar with the idea of farmers markets, which are a reasonably big deal here on the West Coast, that's where you see the marketing going on the growing going on for folks who are bringing fruits and vegetables into the cities to sell them. Right? So it's this kind of not necessarily natural area on the edge of the city, but certainly an area where there's more space to grow things that then people are bringing into the city, and it's a way to sell them to try and earn a living. And on the very, very edge of all of this, right, you've got what's called an industrial estate. And the easiest way to kind of think of an industrial estate, because it's not a state like a great big huge house on a hill, mansion kind of thing, is to think of it as being a complex of buildings, roughly the size of warehouses or large office buildings, that are built up around a certain specific industry. It might be a single company, it might not be, but this is going to be, generally speaking, indigenously owned, so owned by somebody within who's from the country. Okay, and it's going to be built with the export market in mind, usually, not always, but usually. Okay. Pardon my cough here. And people from the city are going to be migrating out to work in that industrial estate. So this has been our review of the Southeast Asian city model. Again, it's a very generalized city model. We're looking specifically at kind of a medium-sized Southeast Asian city, and there are going to be some important differences when we look at, if we look at actual cities, when we talk about who was the colonizer, what types of urbanization were already going on. Also, some important differences when we look at, for instance, those alien commercial zones, as in which groups of people have moved in, either during or after colonialism. Okay. And also, when we look at the relative level of industrialization of the city itself, and how good the governance is and things like that. So some important things to keep in mind. But again, it's a nice generalized model to kind of give you some idea, roughly, of how space is used in Southeast Asian cities. If you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them. Please just bring them into class, and I will see you the next time we meet.